Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jamunatiravanam Jadi Jamunatiravanam Jadi Shravan Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Louder. Shravan Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jamunatiravanam Chadi Jamunatiravanam Chadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Madhava Kunja Vihari Jayom Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Parividhacharya Astatarasatasi Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Gaur Premanandi Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya So it's thrilling, devotees. We're going to be beginning a new chapter. Chapter 38, and it's a really nice chapter. It's Akrura's arrival in Vrindavan. So there's a change of mood. We've already had an introduction to that change of mood by Narada's visit to Vrindavan, even preceding Narada's visit to Kamsa and Mathura, and a series of events. So we'll hear some more. But Krishna's Vrindavan pastimes are about to close, and a new chapter is about to begin. So here we go. Chapter summary, chapter 38. This chapter describes Akrura's trip from Mathura to Vrindavan, his meditation on Krishna and Balaram along the way, and the honor the two lords showed Akrura upon his arrival. Early in the morning, on the day after Kamsa had ordered him to bring Krishna and Balaram to Mathura, Akrura prepared his chariot and set off for Gokula. As he traveled, he thought as follows, quote, "I am about to attain the great good fortune of seeing Krishna, Sri Krishna's lotus feet, which are worshipped by Brahma, Rudra, and the other demigods. Although Kamsa is an enemy of the Supreme Lord and his devotees, still, it is by Kamsa's grace that I will get this great boon of seeing the Lord. When I first catch sight of his lotus feet, all my sinful reactions will be destroyed at once. I will descend from my chariot and fall at the feet of Krishna and Balaram. And even though I have been sent by Kamsa, the omniscient Sri Krishna will certainly harbor no animosity toward me." As Akrura thus thought to himself, he arrived in Gokula at sunset. Alighting from his chariot in the cowherd pasture, he began rolling about in the dust in great ecstasy. Paragraph. Then Akrura continued on to Braja. When he saw Krishna and Balaram, he fell at their lotus feet, and both the lords embraced him. Afterward, they brought him to their residence, inquired from him about the comfort of his trip, and honored him in various ways, offering him water for washing his feet, argya, a seat, and so forth. They relieved him of his fatigue by massaging his feet and served him a delicious banquet. Maharaj Nanda also honored Akrura with many sweet words. So this is a nice chapter, huh? Text 1, Sri Shuka Uvacha. Shukadev Goswami said, after passing the night in the city of Mathura, the high-minded Akrura mounted his chariot and set off for the cowherd village of Nanda Maharaj. Purport. King Kamsa ordered Akrura to go to Vrindavan. Actually, he pleaded with him. He petitioned him. He flattered him. If Akrura said no, he would have ordered him. Anyway, Kamsa ordered Akrura to go to Vrindavan on the Ekadasi day, on the Ekadasi of the dark fortnight of the Vedic month of Falgun. After spending the night in Mathura, Akrura left early the next day. That morning, Narada offered his prayers to Krishna in Vrindavan, same morning, and in the afternoon the demon Vyoma was killed there. At dusk, Akrura entered the Lord's village. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, the 38th chapter, this one, describes how Krishna fulfilled all the desires of Akrura. Krishna welcomed Akrura with proper reception. After consulting on the Krishna Ekadashi of Falgun month, Kamsa gave orders to Keshi and Akrura and sent them to Braja. The next morning, Keshi was killed. Akrura departed for Braja the same morning, and Narada praised Krishna. In the afternoon, Vyomasura was killed. In the evening, Akrura entered Braja. It was a busy day. Tam Ratrim means the night of Ekadashi. Akrura is described as greatly intelligent, Maha Matihi, because there's a different reason given below, but here it's Vishwanath saying because he stayed up the whole night of Ekadasi discussing the glories of Krishna and worshipping him. The next morning, without even breaking his Ekadasi fast, Akrura left Mathura. That wasn't so good. He didn't break the Ekadasi fast. Jiva Goswami writes, I offer my respects to Akrura, who served Kamsa on some pretext in order to see and serve his Lord. The word cha indicates that Krishna became eager to go to Mathura when he heard from Narada that he would kill Kamsa. Thus, Akrura became eager to go to Braja. Api can indicate that although Kamsa had sent Keshi, he also sent Akrura. He, Akrura, was instructed by Kamsa and then spent the night in Mathura. However, Harivangsha says, we're going to hear this is a different day of Brahma. It says it differently in Harivangsha, that Kamsa in the night called all the Yadus and Akrura in Mathura and told Akrura to go to Braja. Then it says, quote, at that moment Akrura, with full affection, left Mathura to see lotus-eyed Krishna. However, previously in the Bhagavatam, it was said that Kamsa entered his inner chambers after speaking to Akrura, and Akrura went to his own house. The stories are from different kalpas. Or, Kamsa spent the whole night discussing with the Yadavas until morning, and then sent Akrura. Akrura's mind was filled with bhakti, Maha Matihi. Shukadev did not want to relate how Krishna would leave Braja, since it was a cause of distress to the people of Braja. Thus he simply dwells on the devotional qualities of Akrura. He departed prayayau. Though Gokula was well known as belonging to Nanda, Shukadev specifically mentions his name because he had a sudden internal realization of its special nature. Interesting, huh? There we go. Sanatana Goswami writes, this is a long one, Narada, although the greatest devotee, had requested the Lord to go to Mathura to kill Kamsa. Api. Akrura, though a great devotee, cha, departed for Vraja. Or cha can mean but. This indicates that although the Lord did not want to go, he went because of the insistence of two great devotees. He, Akrura, departed after passing the night during which Kamsa had given instructions. In the Vishnu Purana, it says, he spent the still, quiet night in Mathura. Previously, it was said that Kamsa had entered his house. Paragraph. Mathura was famous as the place where the great demon Madhu had lived. That's why it was called, before it was called Madhupuri, and then became Mathura. Or Mathura was the city of the Yadavas coming from the Madhu dynasty. Akrura spent the night there. He expected to see Krishna in Gokula after he came from the forest in the afternoon. It was not possible to go into the forest at night since he did not know the path. It's an argument that he went in the morning. But Harivangsha says, at that moment, Akrura, after getting instructions, with full affection, left Mathura to see the lotus-eyed Krishna. Again, this is from a different kalpa. Or Kamsa spent the whole night talking with the Yadavas until morning arrived, and then gave orders to Akrura. Then Akrura departed. And the final paragraph for this morning. Akrura was highly intelligent since he desired to see the Lord. That's different than the reason given before. He situated himself on the chariot supplied by Kamsa. When the Lord mounted the chariot, Akrura would be the only driver. He departed with the expectation of fulfilling his desires, yayao. It was only Akrura, it wasn't anybody else in the chariot. He didn't have a chariot driver because he was going to be the chariot driver going back with Balaram and Krishna in the backs of the chariot. He departed with the expectation of fulfilling his desires, yayao, going to Vraja, the residence of all the cowherds, Nanda. Just by saying Nanda, it means the whole, everybody. That's the indication. He went to the village of Nanda to separate the cowherds from it and to see Krishna. Akrura went to Gokula, which gave Akrura bliss. Though he was not cruel, kruraha, and though he was intelligent, mahamatihi, he intended to take Krishna from Gokula. This expresses Shukadev's lamentation. Even the narrator, in this case, Shukadev, he's so absorbed in Rasika Bhakti that even the contemplation of Krishna's leaving Vrindavan brings him sorrow. One of the commentators of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, is a Vaishnav in the line of Tukaram. When we were in visiting South India, following the Ayodhya and Kishkinda Kanda section, we visited Pandharpur. It was a very nice visit, and it's the place where Vittal is. And Vittal is a deity installed or established, and subsequent to that time, worshipped by Tukaram and his followers. And according to Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada writes in the purport that Tukaram received initiation from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He doesn't say that there's some controversy, there's different views, but Prabhupada is very clear, so we don't quibble. He was initiated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he had a disciplic succession, and one of the persons in his disciplic succession was such a prominent acharya that there's another branch that's a sub-branch of Tukaram's line. And this acharya when it comes to the section of the Bhagavatam where Krishna had called the gopis for the rasa dance, and Krishna was showing special favor to Radha, and Krishna detected that Radha had allowed pride to enter, he disappeared. And there's lots of things that happened, but when Krishna left Radha, Radha began to lament, feel intense sorrow, sadness, the separation from Krishna. Her love had reached a peak and then crashed. Not her love crashed, but the expectations for being with Krishna crashed, and she was feeling great sorrow. So in Hari Suri's commentary, he writes, he reproaches Krishna, the commentator. You shouldn't leave Radha in this position. You're the protector of all your devotees, and she's your devotee, so don't leave her like this. He does it cleverly, but I'm bringing this up because our acharyas have their ways of experiencing Krishna's pastimes, and keeping fidelity to Shukadeva Goswami's narration, we're hearing he's feeling some feelings, and they're understanding Shukadeva Goswami's feelings. That's how closely connected they are to the speaker and the subject he's speaking and the object that the subject is about. They're experiencing these various emotions, and he's feeling very sad. He's feeling not happy with Akrura because Akrura is going to take Krishna from Vrindavan. And Shukadeva Goswami knows how much Krishna loves Vrindavan. Here's someone taking him from Vrindavan. Of course, it's by Krishna's plan. It's by Krishna's plan. He's taking as part of his Leela. Narada's coming and Akrura's coming as part of his Leela. So we don't fault Narada, we don't fault Akrura. But Shukadeva Goswami is not feeling good about Akrura's coming. It's a transcendental emotion. And how do our acharyas understand these things? Was Krishna, we hear different things. Was Krishna inspired by Narada's words? Yes, let me go rescue Vasudeva and Devaki, my dear devotees. They're in shackles in the prison house of Kamsa. I must liberate them. I made a promise to the demigods. I must destroy Kamsa and so many demons. I must. They're my dear devotees. And that's a feature within Krishna. And it's a real feature. It's not comes and it goes. It's a real underlying fundamental feature. Krishna gives protection to his devotees. He promises to do it and he keeps his promise. And at the same time, there's this profound love that Krishna has for the mood of the love of the residents of Vrindavan, and it's throughout. And it's part of Krishna's nature. So he has this feeling, and he has that feeling, and one can look at this feeling, or one can look at that feeling, or one can say he's confused, or torn between different feelings. But he's the transcendent Lord. Why is he torn between different feelings? Well, where do we get those things? And so we can say that's the mind, but Krishna has spiritual contemplations and spiritual affections and spiritual affinities that's not tainted by anything material, and ours are. So we must not look at Krishna's pastimes through the lens of what our experience is. Rather, we can understand transcendence in this way. Prabhupada speaks like this. By knowing oneself, one can get a sense of the Supreme Person. But we must not look at the Supreme Person as like us. It's the other way around. We're in his likeness. So we undergo these uncertainties and torn emotions and this and that. That's there in Krishna. It's got to be there in Krishna. And it is there in Krishna. Everything is there in Krishna. Otherwise it doesn't exist. But everything it exists is within Krishna in its untainted condition. So overall, in many, many, many ways, particularly this 10th canto points to the very special place that Braja is, the very special place that Krishna holds Braja in. I don't know if you were able to attend the class yesterday. The question we were discussing that I said would be Monday evening, it happened yesterday, Tuesday evening. The destination of those killed by Krishna. It was like, we spent half an hour, 40 minutes on that topic, mainly just reading what Prabhupada writes and Rupa Goswami writes and Jiva Goswami writes on that topic. But one of the outstanding features that all three personalities express in their purports or commentary is Krishna has special power. In the Padma Purana, Jiva Goswami cites in Laghu Bhagavatamrita, there are three forms of the Lord. Shad Aishvarya Purna. Aishvarya means opulence. Shad Aishvarya, the 6 opulences, Purna. And those three are Krishna, Rama, and Nrsimha. So, that's a detail. We say, from one candle, all other candles have equal candle power. And that's good enough. But Laghu Bhagavatamrita goes a little deeper. And yes, they have all potencies, but they don't manifest them in fullness. And these three manifest them in fullness. And then it goes on to say, Laghu Bhagavatamrita goes on to say, but Krishna exhibits more than Rama and Nrsimha. And the specific point of our discussion about destination of demons killed by Krishna is the demons killed by Krishna achieve liberation. And the demons killed by the others do not necessarily achieve liberation. There's a special potency. Due to the special potency in Krishna, you can say it's mercy potency, Kripa Shakti, or whatever, they achieve liberation. And there's two different kinds, the Vaikuntha kind and the Sayuja kind. And depending, there's different factors besides the Krishna factor, but one of them is their mind absorbed in Krishna. So like, a couple weeks ago, we spent one whole evening just discussing Shalva. Shalva. He's not like a really prominent personality in Krishna's pastimes, but here's a quick summary. Shalva was one of the kings who witnessed Krishna's kidnapping Rukmini. So he developed an intense animosity toward Krishna. So, like Shishupal, intense animosity towards Krishna resulted in his mind was constantly absorbed in Krishna thought. And he underwent severe austerities, getting a benediction from Lord Shiva that he could have a craft that could do this and that, and weapons and this and that. His intention was he wanted to go to Dwarka and kill the entire Yadu dynasty and Krishna. Wasn't a lovely meditation, but that was, so he got the craft, and so he came to Dwarka with the intention of killing Krishna. And he was powerful. He had this mystic power, that mystic power, the craft, this and that, and an apparition of beheading Vasudeva, because Vasudeva was in Dwarka at the time, and this apparition said, "Oh, your father has been captured by Shalva's men," and then they showed him and took a sword and decapitated the apparition Vasudeva right in front of Krishna, and then disappeared. And Krishna had some feelings. Sadness. He was overcome with sadness to see his father decapitated right in front of him. Now he's omniscient. So how come he didn't know? Well, anyway, he knew. Just his Yogamaya potency allowed him to experience that feeling of great grief, witnessing his father's, how brutal, being decapitated. And then the person disappeared, and the apparition disappeared, and everything disappeared, and the Yogamaya curtain went back. So the liberation that Shalva received was Salokya. He was a bad guy. He wanted to kill Krishna. He wanted to kill the Yadus. Indra also wanted to do some bad things. Krishna didn't, decapitate him. Didn't take a Sudarshan chakra and finish him. But Shalva, and anyway, it was a nice discussion yesterday. One of the it's special power that Krishna has. Now, other demons didn't achieve that. Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha and Ravana and Kumbhakarna, they didn't achieve that. But in their next lives, their mind was absorbed in Krishna. Shishupal and Dantavakra. Anyway, the emphasis given by Rupa Goswami is the very special power that, more than all the other equally powerful Vishnu Tattva expansions, Krishna exhibits further power than all of them, any one of them. And that special power of Krishna results in liberation. You missed it. But there's a recording, you can listen. So there's no more demons left to be killed, but all of this is, how do we understand the special position of Krishna in Vrindavan, in addition to the demons killed by Krishna in Vrindavan, because demons were killed by Krishna outside of Vrindavan, Shalva and Pondraka, another who achieved Sarupya and Salokya residence in Vaikuntha. Pondraka. No, King Keshi, the king of Keshi didn't. Kashi, didn't. But Pondraka, because he was fixed, his mind was fixed on Krishna. So that doesn't mean, hey, that's a good program for us. Ours is to be, it's favorable. Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam, fix our mind favorably. That's bhakti. And so what to speak of, our expectation is not just Salokya Sarupya, and the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, just by his association and the association of his followers, are invited and encouraged and inspired and stimulated to have special appreciation for Braja Prem. So in that Braja Prem, it's not wanting a form like Narayan in the Vaikuntha realm. It's not like poo-poo it, that's pure devotion. But it just doesn't compare. The superlative position of Braja Prem is spoken of again and again and again, and then again and again and again, and again and again. And it's true. And it's hearing that stirs those kinds of feelings. Those are stimulations for ecstatic love for Krishna of that nature. Very special. So Krishna's Vraja pastimes are closing, and Shukadeva is having some feelings about that. So let's see if there's some discussion.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. I have two questions. One is something I missed. Was it Akrura who did not want to go at night because it was dark, or was it Krishna? I didn't catch that one.
It's a possibility. It's not like a definite, but yes, it was Akrura didn't want to go because he heard it in the evening, but he didn't go that evening. He went the next morning. And he really wanted to see Krishna. It was like, wow, this is why I was staying on in Mathura, so I could get to see Krishna. And now it's like authorized. But he didn't go at night because he didn't know the path through the forest. It was Akrura.
Thank you. And is there any reference by any Acharya who Akrura was in his previous life?
Nothing comes to mind. I can research. but nothing comes to mind.
I was just inspired that Akrura drove the chariot for Krishna and Balaram, and Sumantra drove the chariot for Ramachandra and Lakshmana. So I'm not sure if there's a connection, but it was just a nice parallel.
I'll do a little research. We know who he was the son of, but we don't know who he was in his previous life. I'll check it out as soon as class is over.
Yes, Maharaj, regarding to Nityananda Prabhu's, that about Akrura, I also did a lot of research, but there is
A lot of what?
research on internet, and I could not find anything about Akrura's lineage. Like Prabhupada has mentioned that Akrura, how he became related to Krishna.
How he's related?
To Krishna.
Oh, it's a family relation.
But
You want to see the family tree? I don't have it.
Yeah,
I don't have it in my mind. I have it in my computer.
Yeah, I checked that family background on the tree of that family background. There I saw Akrura, I forgot his father's name, and
Shwapalka.
yes, and if you take that relation, it becomes Akrura becomes grandfather of Krishna.
He's
Great grandfather.
Many years elder.
Yes, great grandfather of Krishna.
But there's this interesting thing. It seems to me that as marriages, there's like a whole number of persons, and how does that work? Because marriages happened in such a way that somebody became married when they were young, they had children, and then those children grew and they had children. So people were contemporaries, although there's a number of generations in between, a number. So somehow it must have been like that, unless he was just, like, especially, Chiranjeeva type of person, just lived a long time.
Yes. Maybe I want to confirm from you, maybe was it different millennium or something?
A different what?
Millennium.
Millennium, no.
No?
No.
The same millennium.
Yeah, same.
Thank you. And
I mean, that's a possibility, but not specifically to the Uncle Akrura nomenclature. Not just a different day of Brahma. Okay? Okay.
And one more question.
One more question.
Again, I'm sorry, yesterday I was busy with some other things.
You're making notes?
I could not remember about a class. So I'm very sorry for that. I'll check today. But on today's discussion, I was thinking that so many Gyanis, like those who are seeking after knowledge, and they, I think in the Nectar of Devotion, I think and I was studying under Nityananda Prabhu, that they get sajujya.
They did what?
Sajujya liberation.
Sayuja.
Yes.
At max.
That is very dangerous. So in other words, I want to confirm from you, that means if we go in logic, that means demons are better than Gyanis. Yeah. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah, because you said
equal to or greater than.
Yeah, because you said the demons are like Sisupala.
Well, their special qualification to achieve that is mind absorbed in Krishna. And Gyanis don't have their mind absorbed in Krishna, they have their mind absorbed in Brahman.
So we can conclude that sometimes demons are better than Gyanis.
Yes, yes, yes. They get greater fortune, for sure. Okay.
Thank you.
Any?
Marsha, in certain sections of the Bhagavatam, other personalities are worshipped as the supreme. Like there's prayers in Kailash where they offer prayers to Lord Shiva and mention that you are the super soul of all living beings. And I think also in the fifth canto, certain prayers they worship Vayu, and they have that concept of these other beings being the supreme. But it's in the Bhagavatam, and Prabhupada translates it as though, without much difference. So how to understand
Process that?
Yeah.
There's different explanations, and some of them are really subtle and not so easy to understand. Specific to Lord Shiva. But for those who are in transcendence, let's take the Brijvasis. Radha worshiped Surya. The gopis worship Katyayani. But it's not the material Surya or the material Devi. It's transcendental Surya Narayan. But then transcendental Surya Narayan makes arrangements with Radha in this way, that way, as we find in Rupa Goswami's writings, Lalita Madhava, etc. So there's the transcendental and then the material counterpart. So there are persons that see the material counterpart as the supreme. So we know what that is from Bhagavad Gita. That's mistaken. But they see like that, and they worship like that. So it's there because there are people that see like that and worship like that. It doesn't mean they're the supreme. So now we have multiple supremes. That's not logical. There's not multiple sources of everything. The supreme is they're Ishwaras who are subordinate to the Parameshwara. No, it gets subtle about what Lord Shiva's position and personality, speaking of him in this way, and then there's people that just have philosophical misunderstanding, and there's a special position of a service that Lord Shiva performs on behalf of the personality of Godhead. And it gets, it's very subtle, really slippery also. Just when you think you got it, it just went away. So I don't think I want to go there right now. Do you have something you're thinking? Okay, we're going online.
So first question, sorry Maharaj, 1 second. So in the order that I can decipher, first from Gopinath, we went for parikrama in Pandharpur,
Yeah.
but I forgot what the story behind it was. So what was the pastime in that place?
Well, there was many, but just keeping it really simple, it's the place where Tukaram resided, his base, and it's a place where Lord Vittal, the deity of Tukaram, was worshipped. Do you remember going there to see Lord Vittal, and everyone got the opportunity to place their head on the feet of the deity? I was told by somebody that lives there that the toes of the deity are gone because of so many devotees over such time placing their head on the feet of the deity. The toes are gone, or not distinguishable as toes anymore. So that's principle. There's many other things. There's a book that Lokanath Maharaj wrote, or he and his followers wrote. There's some special things spoken in the scriptures as it is Vaikuntha on earth. So many nice things, but those are some principal ones.
Thank you, Maharaj. Next is Sri Radhika. Akrura got a terrible reaction for carrying out Krishna's plan, involvement in a murder plot of Satrajit and separation from Krishna. Was Akrura's reputation ever redeemed by Krishna later?
Was Akrura's reputation ever
Redeemed.
reduced?
Redeemed.
Redeemed. Well, it doesn't, I don't recall reading anything that specifically says that, but when Krishna called Akrura to Dwarka and said, Akruraji, can I see the Shamataka jewel? And so he knew that Krishna knew, and he showed the Shamataka jewel. And Krishna said, very well, you keep it. He wanted to give it to Krishna, or to give it to Ugrasena, because that's what Krishna wanted. Krishna said, you keep it. So that exchange with, one can deductively conclude that he was redeemed by Krishna's accepting of him. Now there may be some folks out there in Dwarka that were saying some bad things about him, who knows, but he was redeemed in Krishna's eyes, and being redeemed in Krishna's eyes is good enough for a devotee like Akrura.
Her question has come in pieces, so I missed the second part or the follow to it. When we trust that ultimately dharma will prevail, there is an expectation that a devotee who carries out the mission of the Lord will be restored to glory, even if in the interim, meanwhile, Krishna allows the devotee's glory to be covered up. Is it a correct understanding of the principle?
Yes. It has many dimensions, but in the end, yes. Krishna's sanction, someone's glories become covered.
Is this principle true even in the case of Chota Haridas, who never seemed to have been redeemed in order that Lord Chaitanya teaches a lesson?
Well, he was, because it became known that Lord Chaitanya was hearing Chota Haridas sing. It's not like it was just a rumor. It became known Chota Haridas was singing to Lord Chaitanya, who would go and hear him sing. So he had not been in Lord Chaitanya's disfavor. In fact, he was redeemed.
The next few questions is from Uma. When we hear about the pastime of Akrura happening in different kalpas, are they happening in different universes as well, or is it in this universe?
Well, that's a whole long description, but the short answer is yes. Okay. The pastimes, there's this nice verse among many verses in Gajendra Moksha, where Gajendra is offering a very significant prayer to Lord Vishnu, where he specifically, in one verse, says there's 6 things that the Lord does not do, and then in the next it says he does them. And so he has no birth and no activities, janma karma. So to understand the janma and karma is he has no material, but he has birth and activities. And the birth, anyway, it's a nice, it's a very long, elaborate, very subtle explanation. But the birth of Krishna, any event like birth or occurs, coming, and so forth, the activities of Krishna, the birth and activities of Krishna, they're eternal. That is to say, birth is an event that has a beginning and an end. But Krishna's birth doesn't have a beginning and an end. That is to say, as he's appearing in the prison house of Kamsa, his birth pastime in another universe, and another universe, and another universe, and another universe is eternally going on. He's eternally being born, which is contradiction. And Akrura's coming is eternally coming, and then departing, and eternally departing, and eternally departing in some universe. So the answer is yes. Now, is it the same Akrura, or is it Akrura's expansion, or how does that work? It certainly can be it can be Akrura's expansion, or it can be someone else with another name. It's a pastime that's eternally going on. However Krishna wants to orchestrate it. That's Jiva Goswami's answer to this, the apparent contradictions within Krishna. He does and he does not. It's really nice. It's really subtle and important.
So her second question is, Krishna's pastimes happen in different universes in the material world. Do they happen simultaneously in different universes? Or is that a different pastime is happening in the same time in different universes?
They happen the understanding that I have may be faulty, but they're sequential, just like Prabhupada's example of the sun is rising. So somewhere where the sun is rising, the sun is always rising. And then another place, some time has passed, but the sun is rising, the sun is rising, the sun is rising. The sun is always rising. Similarly, the pastimes are sequentially taking place, and he moves on to another universe. He has wound up his Boma Lila, and in another place, the Boma Lila is winding up, and then in another place, the Boma Lila is in another universe. It's successive, not simultaneous.
Then I'm going to skip one other piece which Maharaj answered. I guess I want to know how Krishna's pastimes happen in different universes in terms of when, what happens and where.
They're sequential, same.
Okay. Then she says another question or clarification. I haven't listened to yesterday's class, but I can do just that if it is better. So not everyone gets liberated after being killed by Krishna, or at least immediately. Example, Hiranyakashipu.
No. Specifically, I'll send, this is Uma?
Yes.
I'll send her the document that I was reading from, so she can read it, in detail several times, so she's sure she got it. But when the bulls that Krishna killed to marry the princesses, they didn't get liberation because they were bulls, but later they got liberation because they were killed by Krishna as bulls. But those in the human form, they achieved either Sayuja or Vaikuntha liberation. All of them. All of them. That's it?
That's it on this forum, yes, Maharaj.
Yes.
Sharampata Swami, Akura is, he'd performed his duties with Kamsa and with great clarity and forthrightness. He'd expressed the reality of the situation to Kamsa with no concerns. And now he's very ecstatic that he's going to be meeting Krishna.
Yeah.
Finally, this was the purpose, as you recounted, for his having even stayed in the service of Kamsa.
Yes.
So clearly it's a very strong personality. The question comes, it seems that he's going to be extracting Krishna from Gokula, and it's so significant, that act, considering what emotional devastation is going to be caused. So one wonders, is there not a little trepidation in his persona, considering the act he's about to perform, despite his ecstasy at having finally getting to meet Krishna?
Is your question, did he have some apprehension about the consequences? Taking Krishna from Vrindavan to bring him to Mathura, the consequences for him for doing that? Meaning, the Brijvasis are not going to like it, and they're going to hold some bad feelings towards me for doing this. And, I'm going to be a messenger that's going to get some bad feelings just by being that messenger. He's a pure devotee. So it can be either A or B. He knew, but he did what Krishna wanted him to do, because devotees do what Krishna wants one to do, whatever the consequences may be. Now, it doesn't say what his contemplations were about consequences. Or B, his consideration of consequences was covered by Krishna because Krishna wanted him to do some service. So he wasn't thinking about the consequences, he was just doing that service. It doesn't say what his contemplation was about. There's going to be consequences for this. The main focus, even in the course of staying in Mathura, was seeing Krishna. And we heard the prayer that he was contemplating. This was in the chapter introduction, summary at the beginning. I get to see Krishna's lotus feet. So that ecstasy was his contemplation. And the consequences of seeing Krishna's lotus feet and the service that he had to do, it wasn't like, I'll just go see his lotus feet and then say Hari Bol and go back to Mathura empty-handed. He didn't, because there'll be consequences if I take him. So it doesn't indicate he was considering in that way at all. He was just in Krishna's service. He told Kamsa, I wanted to say two things. He told Kamsa, at least some version says, Kamsa, I just want you to know you're inviting death. I'm a minister. Ministers have a duty to speak, wisdom to the ones who they're advising. And I'm letting you know you're inviting death. I'm happy to go. Then another detail is, we heard it said, but there wasn't any commentary about it. He left early in the morning and he reached in the evening. And to go from Mathura to Vrindavan doesn't take all day. He's got like a spiffy chariot. Not even a tunga, it's a spiffy chariot. So he just was so absorbed in thought of Krishna, he didn't even know where he was. Took him all day. Early morning till evening, nightfall. He was absorbed. Okay, we're done. Srila Prabhupada ki? Okay.